Attention all newcomers. This is not a game.
Ain't nothing to it but to do it, you feel me?
This is life.
Let's get it.
We put blood, sweat, and tears into this. So
Look, I push that weight to get that dough, but I don't break cause I've been broke. If ain't no pain, then ain't no growth. To keep it 100, I came in to run it and bet if I had to, I'd do it again. It ain't no race if I don't win. Yeah, in spite of the odds, I go get it like I'm a boss. If they step to me, we toss. Look how I done.
Well, hey, good morning and welcome to Coffee with Kevin. We're just going to spend a little bit of time this morning, have a little conversation. We're going to give everybody an opportunity. If you have comments, questions, or anything like that, please go to the comment section down below and put them in there. They should show up here on my live stream so that we'll be able to see that. Also, pardon me, I'm kind of doing both things here, so I'm kind of having to look to the side and look at you at the same time. So here we go. We're going to ask you to invite people that you know, followers of yours. Please come over and watch this important conversation. We're going to be using our Coffee with Democrats channel today for this. But let me fix that real quick. Coffee with Kevin. There we go. So there's a couple of things I want to walk through and talk to you about this morning. And they may come together around one question. And that is, if we want different results in Oklahoma, are we willing to do something different? So I was watching a campaign commercial yesterday for one of the Republican candidates running for labor commissioner. And I'm not going to spend this morning attacking him personally. As a matter of fact, I think he's a decent human being. But we have different political philosophies altogether. And we have very different ideas about how the Department of Labor and what the Commissioner of Labor should be doing. But you can disagree. We can disagree. He and I can have a disagreement without being a bad person or me trying to point him as being a bad human being. That's not the case. And I'd say that about almost everybody who is running here in the state of Oklahoma. They're not bad people. They're not bad human beings. We just have different views on governance. I'll say it now. I've said it many times before, and I truly believe this, that while the Republican Party is hell-bent on controlling the will of the people, the Democratic Party has demonstrated over and over and over again that they want to do the will of the people. That's a philosophy idea that I have that I really want people to focus on. And one of the things about this commercial that I saw yesterday, it pokes fun at him, at himself, and that's okay. But something caught my attention. He's using the same message now that he used during the primary. Now he's in the runoff. And this goes back to this governing philosophy too, where if you do the same thing over and over and over again, but expect different results, what are we doing here? What exactly is that going to, what is that going to accomplish? So during the primary, he ran this commercial and he still lost the commercial to another guy by about 6.5 points, which is pretty significant in my opinion. 6.5 points is a lot. But then he turns around and tries to do it again this time. And I'm thinking, all right, why are we doing this? And it goes back to that same philosophy that I said earlier. You do the same thing over and over and over again and expect different results. And I want us to really think about that, because there's kind of a problem with that. I'm trying to find a photograph over here that I can show you that really is something that I believe in. And you might have saw it earlier in the social media. I'll have to find that later on, but it says the same thing. And I've got it on my phone here where I basically tell everybody, on social media, if you're trying to do the same thing, it says this: Dear Oklahoma, you cannot change the problems in this state by electing the same people that caused the problems. And that's the truth. And that's why I think it's so important for us to really talk about, what's going on and why you can't do the same thing over and over and over again and expect different results. And that goes a little bit with my campaign philosophy with this campaign. This is a non-conventional campaign altogether. And the way that we're running this campaign is completely different too. We're running this on low money, very low, very lean operation. I'm having to do a lot of this myself. And the reason for that is the governing philosophy I have is as a leader, I'm a leader as follower. I want to be that leader that leads with people instead of, pointing down at them. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. One of the things that I really want to talk about is if something didn't get you across the finish line the first time, shouldn't leadership require you to stop, evaluate what happened, learn something, and determine whether you need to change your approach? Hey, look, it's a simple philosophy that I have that I've learned in management over decades. It's plan, do, check, and adjust. You make your plan, you do it, then you check yourself. You check yourself critically. You critically assess everything that's being done as a leader and the people that you're working with to make sure, are we accomplishing the goals necessary in order to get the job done? So you check yourself and then you adjust. And that's a continuous cycle, and it's called continuous improvement. You've got to do those things. And it's that, like I said, it's that four philosophy. It's a philosophy for plan, do, check, adjust. Plan, do, check, and adjust over and over again. And you constantly do that. And you have to have that mindset that, hey, look, there's always room for improvement. Everything you do has an opportunity for improvement. Doesn't mean that you're doing it wrong. By all means, it doesn't mean that at all. It means that you're just trying to improve what you did the last time. And that's why today seems like things are not coming together that way that I wanted to on our Coffee with Kevin this morning. I can't find a picture, but that's okay. Because the next time I do this, I'm going to make that adjustment to try to make sure that all those things are lined up ahead of time. Leadership isn't simply doing the same thing over and over and over again, because that's what you've always done. Leadership requires evaluation. It requires planning. It requires looking at results. It requires asking difficult questions. What worked? What didn't work? Excuse me. Where are we going? And what do the people we're responsible for, what do they need from us? I apologize. Wow, that caught me completely off guard. And how are we going to get there? That's an important thing, because we are not electing someone to simply occupy an office. Folks, if these people running, or myself, if I'm running from the philosophy that I don't have to do anything but just go up there and sit in an office and have coffee and point fingers and maybe answer to a legislator, answer the phone every once in a while, that's completely a wrong idea. The Commissioner of Labor is the chief executive. That means they'd have to take responsibility. And just like Harry Truman, the buck stops here. And that's the way I feel about this in my leadership style, is the buck stops here. It's my responsibility to make sure that when we make commitments to the people of Oklahoma, that we follow up with those commitments. If we're not getting there because we don't have enough inspectors, then there's something, we've got to make some adjustments. We got to figure it out. And if the legislature won't give us more people, then we've got to figure out how we're doing our inspections. That's simple. We've got to work with what we have. And if the legislature is giving us specific direction, and maybe it's they've got some idea that, this is what we want the Department of Labor to do, but it's not achievable. It's my job to go over there and spend time with them. Go have coffee, go have lunch with them, spend time away from the Capitol and not create a hostile environment with them, but appeal to their common sense, appeal to their better judgment, that we have to make changes. And we got to go with the people that are maybe the most radical, the people that are most adamantly opposed. Those are the people we can't be afraid of. We can't run away from them. They're the ones who are really pushing legislative ideas. We've got to spend time with them. We've got to make them understand. And I'm going to say that again. We've got to make them understand, or we have to make the adjustments that they desire. There is room for compromise here, but we've got to do it based on the Constitution. We can't violate the Constitution just because this person may decide that they don't want to fund something or whatever they're doing. Again, I'm talking hypotheticals, but I'm giving you a philosophy of leadership. The philosophy is that you have to be able to go out and you cannot run away from the issue. You've got to be there securely in front of people and talking with them. That means in the different divisions of the Department of Labor, there's different responsibilities, different employees, different programs, the budgets, priorities, workflows, long-term planning, communication, accountability. We've got to take all of those things into consideration. And perhaps most importantly, establishing a mission so that everyone working within the organization understands where they are going and why. I've spent a significant part of my career doing those things. I've worked with large organizations. I've been responsible for employees across multiple states. I've worked in operations, training and recruiting, human resources, public safety, and management. I've had to coordinate people doing very different jobs toward a common objective. And one thing I learned a long time ago is that a leader cannot simply say, this is what we've always done, and this is the constraints for this particular job. This is the constraints that the legislature gives us. We can't be satisfied with that. We can't just use that as a crutch or an excuse. Sometimes what you've always done isn't working, and that brings me to something much bigger, in that more than one commercial or one political candidate or one philosophy. It brings me back to Oklahoma. And I put something on social media recently and I talked about it, and I'll see if I can't show it real quickly, but it's a really good explanation. It's something that I found on social media, but please look at it. Dear Oklahoma, you cannot change the problems in this state by electing the same people that caused the problems to begin with. We've got to think about that. And I love what happened in the primary with so many of the people that were causing problems. They're gone. Even the Republicans understood that they were the problem. And now we have to make sure that we're crossing the aisle and inviting people from different ideologies and political backgrounds to be able to come to us. So let's do better. I think we can do better as a people, and that's when we start putting the people before political parties. And that's what my commitment is. I'm not going to be beholden to the Democratic Party just because I am a Democrat. That's not going to happen. I'm not going to answer to them. But I do have a philosophy and an understanding that as a Democrat, I put people first. That's going to be my philosophy, not corporations, not the billionaire class, not the class of people that are like Tesla, Elon Musk. He's not even an Oklahoman, so why even bring up his name? The deal is, we don't answer to them. They're not going to have a philosophy that they're going to interject and force upon us. The people of Oklahoma are the people that we're responsible in answering to. And that's my philosophy from the very beginning, that it's going to continue to be my philosophy. And I think the reason that when we start talking about having a stronger, safer, fairer Oklahoma as possible, And a lot of people shared that social media image. And I think the reason it resonated is because people understand exactly what I'm talking about. For roughly 2 decades, one political party has controlled virtually every level of state government in Oklahoma. So eventually we have to ask the basic question. If we're unhappy with where Oklahoma ranks in education, if we're unhappy with healthcare, if we're unhappy with wages, if we're unhappy with infrastructure, and if we're unhappy with the number of working families struggling to make ends, in particular, one of the most damning things that I think is going on in the state of Oklahoma is the number of children who are going hungry. If we're unhappy with the number, those things that are happening, at what point do we stop blaming somebody else? And that brings me to something that I want to talk about now, and that's voting. For decades, and it's continued even in the last few years. A lot of people said, I'm disconnecting. I'm not political. I'm not going to get involved in politics. I'm not going to vote. But politics is in you every single day. Every time you go to the grocery store, we're seeing politics every day impacting your wages, impacting your buying capability. The price of gasoline. The reason that's happening is because a political decision at the federal level that is doing some real harm to our economy is driving these up. Same way with the price of milk and meat and your groceries. We have to think about this. So consider those things. At what point do we say, you've been in charge? What have you done with that responsibility? And more importantly, what are you going to do differently? Because fear is not a governing philosophy, because being angry about the other political party isn't a workforce development strategy. Fighting the latest cultural battle isn't a workplace safety program. And telling Oklahomans who they should be and why they should be afraid does not put another dollar in somebody's pocket. It doesn't create an apprenticeship. It doesn't prevent a workplace injury. It doesn't help somebody obtain a certification. It doesn't help a responsible business find qualified employees. And it doesn't help a worker receive the wages he or she earned. I want to talk about those things. I want to talk about the actual responsibilities of the Commissioner of Labor. Title 40, Section 1. You've heard me say it before, and you're going to continue to hear me say it over and over again, because I want people to understand what the Department of Labor does and why it's so important for the worker themselves, because that's the centric idea about the Commissioner of Labor. The Commissioner of Labor shall foster, promote, and develop the welfare of the wage earners of this state, improve their working conditions, advance their opportunities for profitable employment, and carry into effect the labor laws assigned to the commissioner. That's the job. That's the responsibility that I will have as the commissioner. It's not my job to build a pipeline for business. It's my job to build the pipeline for the worker. Is that worker going to get a better wage? Is that worker going to get an increase in their benefits? Again, it goes back to what the duties and responsibilities of the Department of Labor are and the duties of the commissioner. And that is, the Commissioner of Labor shall foster, promote, and develop the welfare of the wage earners of the state, improve their working conditions. And this is key. It goes back to what it said before, shall advance their opportunities for profitable employment. That to me is critical. That's where we need to build that pipeline to, is to make sure that we're living up to the responsibilities and duties that the legislature has put into the Constitution for me as the Commissioner of Labor to do. So when somebody asks what I want to do with the Labor Commissioner job, I don't have to manufacture a political culture war. Oklahoma law has already given us the mission. Let's talk about the working conditions. Let's talk about workplace safety. Let's talk about apprenticeships. Let's talk about career tech. Let's talk about education. Let's talk about preparing workers for the jobs of tomorrow. Let's talk about wages. Let's talk about enforcement. Let's talk about responsible employers and making sure they don't have to compete against somebody who gains an advantage by cutting corners. And I think that's so critical right here in the state of Oklahoma. And let's talk about how the Oklahoma Department of Labor can actually become a resource that workers and employers know exists and know how to use. That's the visibility that I want to put into this state. So, folks, we're going on 20 minutes now, and I'm going to go ahead and shut this down for today. But please come back tomorrow. Am I going to do this tomorrow? I'm not sure. I've got a lot of commitments going on this week. I'm going to have to get up early in the morning and head out to Claremore. I'm going to be at Rogers State. I think they call it their tent day. So I'm going to be up there fairly early tomorrow and stick around until about mid-afternoon. I've got to come back here. I've got an event tomorrow evening that I've got to work on. And then Thursday, let me look at my calendar real quick. Thursday is early voting starts. Let's make sure that we're doing that. Oh, Thursday is really important for me because I'm really excited about this. There's a lot of labor leaders that and labor members that are over in Okmulgee. And I'm excited about the opportunity to get in front of labor because I did that, and I'm a 46-year member of a labor organization, and I love that. I love getting in front of workers. I love talking about the workplace environment, philosophies. I love hearing about people's backgrounds, and I want to go over there and I want to listen, and I want to carry, again, if people give me the opportunity to talk about what my commitment is to the people of this state, and particularly the wage earners of this state. I love getting in front of people. I love those discussions, and I'm looking forward to it. So won't be here tomorrow. I'll see what my day looks like on Thursday. I think that's going to be the next best opportunity for me to do another Coffee with Kevin. So until the next time, folks, please be safe, and thank you for joining me today. My name is Kevin Dawson, and for 43 years, I worked in environments where the rules were written in blood. They weren't an option. That's why I'm running for Labor Commissioner. This is the exact environment that I used to work in, and this is exactly why you need me for Labor Commissioner. I've carried a level of responsibility most people never have to face. I spent 43 years in environments where mistakes cost lives. I don't have to imagine what's at stake. I've seen it. I've also seen what happens when accountability breaks down. I was on the receiving end of it. When I stood up for doing things the right way, it cost me my job. And union accountability is what brought me back. I'm proud to be a union member, but I also spent 23 years in management. I understand both sides because I've lived both sides. Most businesses are doing things the right way. My job is to support them, not stand in their way, but bad actors put people at risk. They cut corners, they ignore the law, and they undercut the businesses that are doing it right. That's where accountability matters. That's where leadership matters. Safety rules are written in blood. You don't just want me on this job, you need me on this job. There's no job out there that is worth losing a drop of blood for or losing a person's life for.
That's right.